Welcome everyone to this Epic 7 guide. This video is for beginners and it will show you almost everything you need to get through the early game of Epic 7. This game is a gear gacha. This means that Epic 7 revolves around gear. My condition for beating the early game is that you're able to farm high level gear in auto. Now, you might be wondering how to farm these gears. Well, in Epic 7's case, that would be the hunts, more precisely, Wyvern 13. Here's a list of things that I will go over in order. So before we start anything, why should you even consider playing Epic 7? Well, I have multiple reasons, the main one being the player versus player. The PvP in this game is probably the best a mobile gacha game can offer. There's Arena, Guild Wars, and in my opinion, the best content being World Arena, an exciting real-time PvP match against another player.
I think it kills. Oh, no way! Oh, okay, wait. It has to kill. Wait, what?
Another reason on why you should play this game is its enormous PvE content. For example, the main story has 5 episodes so far, each episode being a continent that contains about 100 unique stages with a pretty interesting story. There's also the Abyss, Labyrinth, and many more content to keep you occupied for a while. Now that you have decided on playing Epic 7, we can finally begin the guide. I will be doing a new account so that I can show you the necessary footage for this video. This is actually my 7th time of doing the early game, so I will teach you what I've learned, from the beginning all the way to the completion of Wyvern 13. Upon completing 1-2, you'll have access to the adventure path. This will give extremely good rewards and it should be a high priority to complete. You should always look at what your next task is to make sure you aren't missing out on free loot. The rewards range from catalysts, equipments, and sometimes even characters. Your journey will likely follow the path adventure, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle to complete, honestly. Once you finish 1-4, you'll unlock the summon feature, and most importantly, the selective summon. Selective summon will give you a chance to get one 5-star that can either be a character or an artifact, with 2 4-star characters and 2 4-star artifacts. You can roll as many times as you want to get a character that you desire, but be aware that only the base characters and artifacts are available, so that means that there's really only the units from the game's release. You can also record a selection that you like so that you can keep rolling while knowing you saved your favorite roll. And at the end, you may pick between the selection that you saved or the current one that you just rolled. Now, if you have a recommendation on which character to get, you should get this Tina. She is one of the best healers in the entire game for PvE and especially PvP. The other characters are a priority because they are either obtainable for free later on, or they need a buff, but this Tina can't be replaced. Once you awaken her ultimate, it's basically a second chance for your team. She heals, removes debuffs, and can revive all members in your group. You could just pick this Tina and move on, but there are some pretty interesting 4-stars that you can get along with her. The characters that I recommend are Rose, Rosette, and Angelica. As for the artifacts, there's Aureus, arguably the best artifact for knights, and Taga Hell's Ancient Book, arguably the best artifact for mages. Here's the selection I decided to keep. Remember that you can do as many rolls as you want, but you don't need to roll for hours to try and get the perfect selection. Now for the events. Epic 7 has pretty frequent events to keep the player base occupied. For beginners, you will see some that are only available for new players. I suggest that you keep an eye on those because some have to be done daily. For example, there's almost always an event for energy where you must play a certain amount of stages to get the rewards, and every day you should do this event so you don't miss out on free energy and resources. As for the headhunt event, I will not be explaining in this video, but just know that it is a very high priority to do. After defeating Arbiter Villager in 1-10, you'll unlock the Moonlight Blessing. You will have a choice between multiple light and dark units. These 2 elements are the best in the game because they don't have a weakness, meaning they can't miss an attack due to element advantage. RGB units, meaning the ice, fire, and earth characters, have a weakness. For example, if an earth type attacks a fire type, they have a high chance to miss their attack. That's why you must have a different team for a different type of enemies. Anyways, going back on topic, the best option hands down is Spectre Tenerbria. She's an amazing unit for both PvE and PvP. Her passive allows her to never be targeted, so she can only get hit by attacks that target multiple units. Also, her damage is extremely high, with her being able to attack and apply poison to 2 units at the same time with her first skill, and stun with her third. Now, a few honorable mentions are Arbiter Villager, and now recently because of his buff, Martial Artist Ken. But in my opinion, you shouldn't pick them, just go for Spectre. This is just a quick reminder that you get rewards for completing the stages with 3 stars. There's the chapter rewards and the star rewards that you should always try to get by completing the conditions of each stage. After completing 2-2, you'll have access to Free Spirit Theoria, a DPS unit. She is the second best unit for farming stages behind Arbiter Villager. With her being a light type, she is effective against all enemies and she's probably going to be your most used character for a while. You should complete her adventure path as soon as possible so you can quickly make her stronger. Do try to get her at least level 50 when you can, by using Penguins and Spirit Blossom, which I will explain how to get later on. I suggest that you put your best damage gear on her. For example, after day 3, you get a free attack set that is amazing on her. This is the team that carried me all the way to 10-10. Connections is where you can get units by completing some tasks. The characters that you should unlock are Montmorency and Furious, but you can only do this quest after completing 3-10 in episode 2. This is after you complete 10-10 in episode 1. Also, Angelica might be pretty interesting to get to. After defeating Spectre Tenebria in 2-10, you'll unlock the Awakening and Spirit Altar. Awakening will increase your character's base stats, and the third Awakening will always awaken a skill. You can farm the Spirit Altar to get the necessary runes for awakening your units, depending on their element. Be aware that 4-star Awakening all the way to 6-star requires Catalyst. I will show you how to farm these later. You should always at least 3-star awaken your units to unlock their skill potential. Later on, there's a skill tree, but you won't be doing this for now. Now for a pretty important segment, the stats, gears, and skill enhance. First, the stats. Some are pretty self-explanatory like attack, defense, health, and crit. But be aware that some characters scale differently. For example, Destina scales on health, so the more health she has, the more she heals. Some even do more damage the more defense they have, like Karina and Lionheart. Now for speed. This is the most important stat in the game, and determines how fast you are and is shown on the line on the left. In PvE cases, it's good to be fast so you can take more turns, but in PvP, speed is everything. You could literally instantly win a game just because you were able to speed contest your opponent. This is actually the reason that speed set gear can be used on like 70% of characters in this game. Now, effectiveness is very important if you want to land your debuffs. Let's say that you have a skill with 85% chance to debuff. Well, this is the first check. If you are within the 85%, the second check starts. The second check is related to effectiveness and effect resistance. If you have 10% effectiveness and your opponent has 50% effect res, the opponent has a 30% chance to resist your debuff. Building effectiveness on your debuffers and effect resistance on your tanks and supports is necessary for both PvE and PvP. Effect resistance is just your protection against debuffs and effectiveness, but don't neglect this stat, it is for the most part a very useful stat. Now, I should say this right now, there is always a 15% chance for you to miss your debuff no matter how much effectiveness you have. It has always been a part of the game and is honestly pretty frustrating at times. Next up is the gear. This game being a gear gacha means that this is the most important aspect in the game. First of all equipment have a set. There are some that are a 4-piece set and some that are a 2-piece. Normally you would want to go for a 4-piece set along with a 2-piece set, or 3 2-piece set. After the set, there's the main stat of the individual pieces. For main stat, the sword always has flat attack, the helmet flat health, and the chest flat defense. The main stat of necklaces, rings, and boots can almost be anything, but they can have their own exclusive main stats as well. The necklace is the only piece with crit damage and crit chance as a main stat. The ring is effectiveness and effect resistance, and the boots are the only ones that can have speed as a main stat. Now for the substats, they can be anything except for the sword that can't have a defense substat, and for the chest, it can't have an attack substat. Depending on the rarity of the piece like blue, purple, and red, the higher the rarity, the more substats the piece starts with. For the level of the gear, just remember that the higher it is, the better it is in almost every way possible, the max being level 90. For gear enhancing, the max level is level 15. To enhance your gear, it costs powder that you can get by salvaging your gear, and charms that you can acquire almost anywhere. Every level increases the main stat, and every 3 level increases one random substat. When enhancing a substat, there's a low roll and a high roll. For example, when enhancing your gear at level 3, you have a substat that is speed. It can be increased by 2, which is a low roll, or it can be increased by 4, which is a high roll. There's also the equipment score below to tell you an idea of how good the equipment is. For how to gear your characters, I'll leave it up to you. Now, there's also the artifacts, which there are some that are class locked. Just pick the one that you think fits your characters the best. Going back to our characters, you'll see that there's the memory imprint and the skill enhanced, which I haven't explained yet. Memory imprint is upgradable when you have duplicates of the same character, and it can go all the way to triple S. There's the imprint release for giving your team but not yourself stats, and the imprint concentration where you can give bonus stats to yourself. As for the skill enhance, it's basically just to upgrade your skills. You should try the skill enhance for the -1 cooldown on skills, and the effect chance if you can. Also, very important, do not use your Malagoras carelessly. I will show you how to manage your resources in the second part. I will say as a side note, do not waste your Sky Stones and Covenant Summons right now. I will show you where you should use them in the next video. Early on in the game, you'll unlock the Sanctuary. This is actually where you're going to use your Breath of Orbis. Now, you won't have all of these unlocked from the start, but I will show you what each structure does and what to upgrade on them. The Heart of Orbis is only used to generate gold and Skystone passively. A max upgrade, meaning a 3-3-3 is usually what I go for. The Forest of Souls is where you can get some Penguins, Spirit Blossom, and Molagoras. You can also buy some Epic Spirit Blossom with Stigmas, which I highly recommend to upgrade your units to 6 stars. I usually go 0-3-0. The High Command is where you dispatch units, so you can get some hard to get currency. I usually go for 0-1-1 to have access to the war missions, which allows me to farm conquest points. Those points can be used to buy high level equipment in the shop and are pretty slow to get. Now the most important one, the Steel Workshop. This is where you'll be crafting your gear all the time. You should max this structure, meaning a 3-3-3. Next up is the Alchemist Steeple. This is also pretty important. You can make charms, equipment, catalysts, and many more. I won't be going too much into depth for this one, but the upgrades I go for are 0-3-3. Now I'm going to go through the Abyss, Labyrinth, Arena, and Guild fairly quickly. The Abyss is a game mode where you must challenge floors in order to get diverse rewards. These rewards can almost be anything except for characters and artifacts. You can challenge the Abyss 3 times or 5 times if you spend a leaf. These early floors should be pretty easy, but later on it will require a bit more strategy and thinking. After completing chapter 3, you'll unlock the Arena, your first PvP content. Since it's the early game, just put a random defense team. If I ever do a mid-game guide, I will show you some pretty good defense teams. Now, here you can see a selection of players that you can challenge. If you win, it will give you a certain amount of conquest points and rank points. Every week, Arena will give you Skystone depending on your rank. I recommend that you reach gold or higher as soon as possible. It should be fairly easy, and you'll get a pretty decent amount of Skystone every week. Once you reach level 20 on your account, you'll have access to guild. I suggest that you join a very active guild. You should be able to find one on some Discord servers. Having an active guild means you'll be able to get weekly rewards, get buffs, and have access to content such as Guild Wars. I will not be explaining much about guild in this video, since I'm just focusing on the early game. Just know that you should donate 50k gold and your proof of courage every day for some very useful currency. You actually need to give a certain amount of honor coins to Furious if you want to recruit him. Other than donating, make sure to aid and to do your weekly missions. Now finally, the Labyrinth, a maze-like content. You'll want to do this at least once every day. Basically, you must go through a maze and explore everything that you can whilst looking at your morale. Make sure that your morale doesn't reach -50 or it's basically over if you're in a battle. You can camp to restore morale by picking the best dialogues. There are some very good teams for Labyrinth, but it's not really worth it to do them in the early game. You also want to complete the quests for each Labyrinth stage. It is also possible to teleport on checkpoints, and it's very important to do so in future runs. In my opinion, it is kind of a hassle to do Labyrinth, but you should do it to get some pretty good gear and ancient coins. Ancient coins can be used in the shop and should only be spent for necklace or ring charms. It doesn't matter if you buy the greater or the lesser one. Here's what you should do every day before you complete 10-10. Buy energy and flags with friendship tokens. At least do Abyss 3 times, Labyrinth 1 time, and Arena. Check on your events, check on your Sanctuary, donate and aid in the guild, and finally your daily reputation. For weeklies before 10-10, you should purchase molas for transmit, conquest points, and honor coins, and get your Skystone from Arena. I would like to thank you if you watched the video all the way through. Please like and subscribe if you want to see the next part of the guide and more Epic 7 content from me. I hope you have a good day and see you next time.